And then they got a Jeep going outside, so the bees are coming and going. The early morning was tough because there was so many in there. There was condensation everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but then as it got better, it all dripped out, and they started leaking.
I want to get in the cage. I'm gonna sign up again, I want to get in the cage.
Kitchen's that way?
Yeah, we get a cage.
Just
Follow them.
follow them.
We talked about building,
We got to put one on. Yeah, we need to-
but we can leave hive in there all the time. Just have it where they can come and go. When we know we're gonna take it somewhere, close it that night. Take it.
I mean, to me, that's the best, because kids don't have to get students.
Everybody can see everything.
Did you see the pictures of Barry Hines?
But we need to do that. I know how to build shit.
Who's did they use at the conference this year? That was very, yeah, that's a nice one.
He and his grandson built there. And they had never.
Kids.
That would have been June. How was the Roxon doing, Rick?
What?
Roxon?
Seems to be okay. I have not pulled mine yet. I pull it next Saturday.
I'm gonna run mine all 56 days. But initially, my accounts were going up, even after I put it in. But they since have turned down, it went from 36 to 12 on one line. So I would say that it must be working.
Well, I didn't bring my computer today because we're talking about doing it next week, or next month, in the kitchen. Setting up where they had to study that the guy did up in the mountains. Usually
When was the summer conference? It was,
August,
it was
July or August.
July.
July 15th, or somewhere thereabouts. What's wrong with that?
I like that. You could take it to school and there'd be very little risk.
What do you use?
I think that's just expanded enough. That's all it is
The screen on top of it?
No, it's just not expanded enough that can get through it. I think.
I'm at those supplies.
To get it smaller than 3/8, it'd be hard to see through. On expanded metal.
I don't know, we can call Barry when we want to do one. There's Daniel.
Now, I'm not saying they could have top or something like that for the expanded metal. That way they still get plenty of ventilation, whatever. Oh, yeah, you still want it. But you expanded metal, make it smaller than 3/8, it'd be very kind of tough to see through.
Maybe he's got screen on, but I don't know. I don't remember. But a phone call with Barry, they probably could go look at it if they wanted to.
I would probably screen, but a small screen. You can screen on the inside.
The screen get carpet when you use it.
You can use screen on the whole screen. So,
That's what they have out there fair. They just need to go.
The thing I like about this is you can take it out to a school.
Yeah,
hey,
how are the bees on farm?
Right there.
One happened to go really good. One happened decided they wanted to requit themselves last week.
Lawn screen, I'll wait and see what happens. So you can. Yeah, I'll do that. That's, yeah, when you screen, I'm trying to figure out, at the same time, you're gonna pull the extra series off, too, but you can wire. Chicken wire, chicken wire, there's a freshly. Just shoot off the queen sail, run. Motions out there, but they were drawn in, and the other one, the second, great job. She's in there, too. There's so much going on. I was doing the same thing. They decided to reboot themselves like.
You guys,
A week ago, and there was a well in there, that's it was freshly stitched out queen cells. Hey, germs.
which worked out for you.
Well, that one, I got to I got your feet there. Shot next day. I took the test, so that's. I don't know, they were both active, but that one, I got, probably put a lot of that.
They have to study all.
No, no, they did it, just. Basically.
Well, they had one.
That's how I get the
But I get you.
in that location. It's great.
98% of the water on the cover. You've already done the.
I talked to Barry.
That was, we moved these and all that.
Give me till November. Give me till November and I'll get it. That's it. So I'm kind of.
The only thing is down the fact as much as I can, but I can move it is on the test. Or the two. The big wall. I will take care of that.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's all. But how did that, because I was gonna move back, it's all fit down like, I don't know, clean. I bet you already did it.
Yeah.
But you gotta get yours. Mine, I'm like, well, mine.
Yeah, if you was at,
They made it, the winter is fine.
Donna and,
Put it in the spring.
Nathan or Jason.
I'm sure it won't be a problem. That's it.
Oh,
Sometimes just think about one for.
Not really, it'll be the standard.
If we're gonna do one, the grand, we're talking about how many people the other night.
yeah,
Some after first.
right.
So, I don't know, that may.
We're gonna need to check tonight too, where it won't.
No, we were trying to have, sure, I brought my thing all with you, so I'm good. Push comes to shove, I would not give you yours until Saturday. Or something. What you do, Dave? You don't want to.
I left it in there, it's not.
I don't think I got enough.
I got checks,
Stay in the kitchen. You got blanks? I thought you gave me all the blanks.
all but 10.
Okay.
I
Let me
got
see
10.
what I got before we do it.
We got plenty of checks, so.
Okay. Because I got the thing, I said, John needs one, she needs one, he might need one for what we're doing.
Yeah.
Didn't think about the speed.
Well, I'm not on the emails you were calling, you looking for stuff.
Hey, flip it the other way.
In my, like, 3 hours.
There you go.
And the risk of being contrary,
I think that.
All right, let's go eat some of this ice cream.
and hear what's going on.
Say that again.
I said, it's risk of being contrary. I can't be back there when things started. I can move it.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this?
We can move it closer.
Don't help me, we're gonna teach on this.
That I'm okay. All right. I just make hearing.
There he is.
All right, here we go.
John.
Here the first victim.
Okay. Hold on.
I was going to chair. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
trouble, y'all just got me. Last party, our last outing. So we're now cooking for the Wake County cookout today. And they're talking about a hall.
Hey, that's for you, Chris.
Yeah, you need a hand? How you doing tonight, sir?
How are you?
All right.
If you're coming for B basics in the kitchen.
Okay. I'm going to sign. All right, hold on.
When the doctor got some blood work done, I no longer lose the B-stick, so
Oh, good. That's a plus.
it is a plus.
Look at the deer out there.
Oh, yeah.
But catch them. You need a release from them.
But she's not in the house.
No. It's not here, you.
And she won't stay there long. She won't like when you get mine.
Where'd Daniel go?
Probably after the ice cream. I think that's why we got some people in.
That's where I'm headed. There should be like $99 in there. When you get home, I want you to check to make sure I've not hit you twice for any of those charges. I don't think I have. What's wrong?
$200 charge for the phone service and $100 for the phone shares. That long comes to $300. If you all got it,
Oh, I'll fix it. Hold on. I'm coming.
I do believe it should be free. I'm gonna let you relook at it before I.
I probably didn't carry the sum down. On the Excel sheet.
Hey, how you doing? Very accurate.
You're talking about Mike, right?
So I bring them right for the wall.
Well, look out.
None of them are close.
I've seen the old run, I ain't smelled no teeth like I did.
I did this year. It's still like we're. That would be very down.
Because I know we left the meetings out like that. Here you go. We don't have a record. Oh. Program man, or whatever. Yeah, add an email to y'all to get up. Who else? I'm gonna put together a list of every policy that the next one you do. The program director out.
There's no, I see no need for variation. Then,
So I haven't emailed you all the agendas for the last couple of years. I just haven't had time to sit down and read and type up what the big basic topic was. What the main topic was. Somebody would at least have a think about putting together a topic. I don't know how to get to the shared drive, I think it's simple, you know.
Well, it seems like it changes here, like, you know, it's no longer there. Yes. There's ice cream next door. Light presentations next door. And the kitchen, if you all ever. Yeah. Just use it to work. Anyway,
Wow, he actually counted these. Big Campbell.
I just, you know, I said, whatever,
Good for him.
he does make any difference.
No, I'm just saying good for him, but actually.
And here's something else. I went back to the. Anyway, he's that big piece of that.
Yeah, I saw this one day where the guy was taking drone footage, putting it queen exclude, double queen exclude. Let the drone hatch out. And it was Mike counted on just the drone that attached to the drone frame to see what he had. He was trying just to see exactly how many lights were coming off the drone.
Well, Nathan said you could just freeze that drone frame. The bone will pop out, and you can count the lights on it.
Well, he was making the claim like, you know, like they hatch out. And I guess it's a day or something that they're like attractants of the lights as soon as they come out.
The drone there.
So he took the drones and then like put them to sleep instead of killing them. And pulled all the lights off.
I'm not there.
I just triggered. Eyeball looks so it starts seeing problems.
I like also the gas. They got real down there.
Well, my uncle built it, then my uncle got the across the Beekeepers. He had a homemade plug-in thing, right? Trying to make it easier than stitching full breach.
That works, I mean, whatever.
I didn't have to buy it, it's like here, yeah.
Huh?
Government. This is the one you had, does it have the temperature gauge on it, show exactly, how hot is yours cooked to?
444.
Mine is good hot.
You can adjust it anywhere you want.
That's all right.
The deal is, you only can put so much, because maximum volume.
It's like it ain't yet, you're already.
That's what they improve.
There you go.
Yes,
It's worth the $100. Can you fill up our out?
we won't be there. So, they will start. Do they have enough for everything? That's fine, just that some of them, all of them, you can always tell, that's very top.
The ones that are easy to get to.
Yes.
Of course.
But after that day, I understand why you decided, let the truck, trying to do that. Way it is. Yeah.
We do the best we can, and then we go home and get it. How you doing today?
Everybody else in next door learn about Mike. Let's go through that way and then take the next little hallway on the right.
How you doing?
Fantastic, what about you?
I'm good. Super good.
How are you?
How are you?
Use it for Wilson County. Oh, y'all need more.
Yeah, we need more money. I don't know what.
Go right there. It's kind of turn, take them on the hallway to the right.
Construction was kind of a surprise.
Oh, yeah, how long's that bridge supposed to be out?
It's getting closer, Rick.
Yeah, but you actually can walk
I'll
across.
special make some time.
Yeah, but you know they're gonna get paid and paint and leave block eight off at least 3 months.
Well, yeah,
Look at the DOT way.
well, the concrete's got constraint.
It's good.
I mean, you only get the minimum strength for 28 days, you really need to get 6 or a little bit longer.
So. Where, harder they can make. They're not, it's much easier to buy.
Provide from the Bailey's, this small tree cell.
We put a little space, put this label on the box.
We could sell them one. We're taking a quarter. That's what we did, we did three. We went through a couple of lots.
Well, see, we stopped, we did away with it, and yeah, because we felt like the Beekeepers control the brand.
I got away that, I told you we did that, what do you call it, and Tommy and the extension service. Environmental field day, right? I gave away there. I won't do that. Never ever. Yeah. On the white pass.
I'm just saying, the way people buy. First year doing that. I did a question that they're going to pay. He said, yeah, he said, that's it. So $30,000.
Wow, at $1 piece.
Well, four.
Right, that was
The dues were,
$1 per seat.
Get it, dollars. I haven't seen it.
It was $1.
They probably got it. I understand it.
how much was the sell 24?
Oh, okay, they here, but I was fixing to buy something cycle today.
14?
It was $7 for a pair, 14 for a pound, 24 extra short. That's all I'm budgeting for that, so thanks.
We sell usually we sell.
Something's working.
Like,
Well, I know it's working. Sold it.
no, well, a little bit.
You put it in the four quarters, so you have.
I buy it,
Not $4, $5.
I buy it, $4. About, I got about. $4, almost 3 pounds, but yes. Pretty bag.
You know, I don't see how people make that cheap.
It's not.
You can sell 5 gallons of it to the Beekeepers for $150. Yeah, that did make a lot of sense. You buy 5 gallons, bro.
Technically not a beekeeper.
You're just in between.
Oh, well, yeah, so, if I get back into it, I'm looking at it next week. That's interesting.
Those are eggs that's fine or similar, in that, you know, once we got out of the heat, it's very.
When those are like 9 to 5 years. And I haven't really much. Can't really, almost no information.
Yeah. So, you got a lot.
It looks like a lot of mics.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think
cucumbers. But yeah, replacing them.
This one observation, that and the dump. He's gonna, that's just what I heard.
Yep.
Well, I think this is fine. That's all it was.
You know,
You have to have them down in all this. I think that's. You gotta have them
well,
very low levels on all.
I have it down, have treated it down for like first, and still in the September. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Oh, it is. I mean, I treated it before,
Let's like to figure out.
and then when. Because I can't probably not have so I had 3 or 4 days, you know, we're below 85. I don't even. And my life.
Well, that's what I'm gonna be trying to get. But most of my folks, they say, well, that makes us city problem. Like, speed.
Oh, we had one. Jesus.
Like,
Yeah, you just, okay.
I had that, so
So I got tired of making.
no, it's possible. They're always have the same mother daughter lane beside each other. We used to be like 6, 7, 8 hours.
Good one. Yeah. But I did.
Yeah.
I moved that. I live in maximum amount of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that part. Messy. I still hate it, like, I hate it, some of the things around us, and they get to fix every time. And, but they, on mine, they tear half of the wall or something, I stick it through the wall on the other side, she's seen that too.
Well, I think that's some question on this down.
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe that's what it is.
but normally what you do is I saw a sweater she was out.
I see a lot of bits.
Yeah.
But if it works, I reckon. So I had that.
Well, I did a couple pieces at the time.
Right.
Profiles, and then I take a piece out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. It probably not, but it certainly should work.
I just saw that.
We also said it's the church that they will have some strict laws about that person. I think others of times, we will have better.
My group that next year.
used earlier.
Well, see, look at it, so, right, it ain't so.
I don't know. I have a,
Well, when he was one I don't like that. The other interesting thing is, I don't know if those things can Probably the deal is probably 34 bucks. So, I didn't think it was, I never really wanted to work.
Just team, we knew she was gonna do it, so we were really careful. Make sure. Check it, make sure.
And then for
They went from 297 to 305. There was no different races or needs or anything like that. Like I said, we were, it wasn't just a scoop and dump them in there, it was scoop. Oh, no, that's not quite right. But there was zero variation. Okay, I mean,
Still better than what it was.
three games, it was 300 one way or the other.
well,
Right, and you want more money, then you're
It's a little,
yeah.
I would say most of the time when I do mine, that's the way. We were doing it, knowing she was fixing the counters.
Well, we were trying to figure that out, I mean, like, really, it's gone up, I mean, it's something. Right.
everything else. It's nice.
Fish, one of your mom.
Well, he did.
What if we, they have a son office. I'm scared of you.
Yeah.
Good, like.
It's massive. Give it to you now. Any ribbons? Johnston,
If I ever, I would get
I guess second place. He is now on their call, you know, it's the rotation, he's on call for all this.
And usually two.
And then like a week later, I handed my laptop, I'm like, where's all my stuff? Oh, we erased it, but we can fix one simple thing, not give me a blank laptop, and everything set on, and all the programs I need to do my job, they let me go off. That's the thing, it's when you say program, they want to fix it like that. Like, I need you to put this program back in there. Why do you need the program? Required to use this program, it's not state or state. I know it's not. When you make a program, so, each program, I can't go there. You gotta do that.
Well, they used to drive crazy through that program. And they just fit, they were easy programs. But yet we pay $50,000 for ourselves. Line drivers. It was like fighting. All diagrams, every decision. And it was in the turn road east, 1,000 trees. It grows. And then the percent of surveyors, the generator, was 108 tons. And you got a permanent sagging on runs. I mean, they log everything. Piece of paper, and
Wire.
Then 30 seconds.
Well, I think,
That's right.
So you probably need to talk to Tom about
I actually always for a reason. Seems like it'd be normal presentations, we usually have time, but on the line, I think that's long.
because you're trying to cover some.
I think we frame it. Oh, yeah, I think. I told David that I've done that 4 times, and I told him that after the first time, and after the second time, and after the third time, I had to. You know, it's too much, I need to take some, you know, worksheets, too much stuff on the worksheet. And some of us, and really, you don't need to go over anything. I tried to look at it.
It's one.
You may want to go in. I'm doing. No, I'm tired. I'm tired.
I did
Because
ask
and the way across it and the way
You don't think it really works?
the only reason I need words is other than that,
because I sell them for $8 a month.
does this work?
I don't know.
Yeah, mine's all together. You can't get any fresher than that. Most of it has no meaning. Very open.
Yeah. Just, you go up there and want that?
That's fine.
Okay. I guess people are busy tonight. Rich got people on there or something. I appreciate everybody today. We have snacks and water if you would like. So, how's everybody's bees?
Alive.
They're gone. They're flying around. Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'm just going to follow our agenda for tonight. First thing is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think our Zoom is good. It looks like it on the screen. So, just iterate, don't forget to go vote. Either side.
Already did.
Nathan's already done it. Vote early, vote often. Every 4 years, every 2 years. So, okay, most everybody I know here, what new members are there?
Not a number yet.
Not a member yet, but
It's not on stuff. I recently picked up a piece of property off of Cleveland Road.
okay,
For 10 acres and I'd like to try to get
Congratulations.
it going.
that's a lot of land.
Straight here, steel tube. Between there and Linda.
What's your name?
Jeff Steinman.
Thank you. What is it?
Jeff Steinman.
Yeah, okay, good to meet you.
You signed in, right?
Okay. So tonight's meeting, it's gonna be Greg Overland. Music production is pronounced that, I'm sure.
Pretty close.
We'll call him Greg. But I'll let Greg come. He's very qualified. If you'd like to tell your qualifications, you're welcome.
He's a master beekeeper. Or you're a master craftsman.
No, I'm not that. So what do I need? You need my food bag,
Look at him right there.
or plug your computer in, or I got it both places.
Whatever your preference is.
It doesn't matter as long as I got a clicker on it. Got a pointer on it? I've actually got a pointer.
I believe that, Greg.
Red one, shining there, red. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you did.
Probably have to get closer.
Right, it works. I'm pleased.
Oh, mine ain't on. So that would be one reason why mine ain't working.
There you work good.
I don't care, as long as it doesn't matter when it's already voted. Whenever's easy.
Put your computer just move to the.
Qualified in something, but electronics is not one of them. Yeah, but
He's good.
While we're waiting on Greg, I'd like to thank everybody that joined us in the kitchen for the ice cream and the Bee Basics. We'll be having the Bee Basics in the kitchen, every meeting. Be sure to come early and hang out in the kitchen.
Did everybody like the ice cream?
Yes.
Don't you make copies of that article?
Not yet.
Okay.
I will.
Maybe, Seth can do it for you?
I'll get it.
I got a speaker, I don't need one.
No, just-
Good. Welcome, y'all. Glad y'all allowed me to come this evening to talk a little bit about you. Are there many beginners or let's say first year beekeepers?
Yeah.
I thought you were telling him he needed to raise his hand. So really this talk is really more geared towards you guys. I don't know how many older, more experienced beekeepers we got. I know there's several of them in here, but this is really kind of geared towards the beginners. And I just called it, do you have your spring plan in place? It's going to be here sooner than you think. And I was wondering, one reason I was wondering if there was any beginners here is I think last month y'all had Adolphus Leonard speak to you. Were y'all, most of y'all here for that? And he did winter prep. I just thought it might be a little odd to a beginner that 1 month you're doing winter prep and the next month the guy comes in there and says, hey, winter's basically over. You know, spring is here. So I kind of want to show you why I think anyway, you need to be preparing now for spring instead of winter. So first of all, it has a beautiful winter scene, right? We get about 1 or 2 days like that in this part of North Carolina most of the time. We just don't see a winter like what a lot of the books or the videos, if you watch, they're always talking about prepping for winter, and you just have to be really, really careful about what you're watching, because those people might be in Wisconsin or Vermont or Canada even, you know, and it's just so much different here in North Carolina. So Adam, some of the experienced beekeepers, Nathan, what temperature do your bees start foraging? What outside ambient temperature do you think your bees make?
I've seen about 48, 45. I've seen even that cold.
45. Same kind of thing, 45, 50 degrees in that kind of ballpark. So I just pulled some climate data out from Smithfield, North Carolina. So I don't remember, I think it's over near the airport somewhere, but it's right here on the top of us. And there's actually some bad data right here. I'm pretty sure this is November of 2023. I'm pretty sure there was no 0 degree temperatures in November of 2023. I actually looked at another climate website, and there was no spike down like that. There wasn't anything even close to that. So I don't know what that right there is. But I'm not really even focusing on that. I'm really focusing on this top line. So this top line is the temperature, the maximum temperature for that particular day, each one of these days. And so we all just said 45, 50 degrees, somewhere like that. So if you run your line right across here like this, right there we find, and that's right in that same zone where there's some bad data, so I ain't even sure that's right. You keep right on going right on across, and finally, right in here around the last few days of November, we get under 50 degrees. And a lot of these temperatures are way up here. This is 80 degrees up here, and 65 or 70, and these are 75 and 80. And so if you hadn't thought about it before, really, we're in October the 21st now, and it's 75 degrees out there. And according to the last year's data, it's still going to be warm like this right on through another month. So 30 more days from now. And I guess I should have started with what exactly is winter and what exactly is spring. So
by the calendar, when does winter start? December 21st. By the calendar, when does spring start? March the 21st. And I think what I'm trying to show is that those dates have little or nothing to do with what winter and spring is. So not by the date, but what is winter? What is the term winter? What does the term winter mean?
Days get the longest and the shortest.
That's what it is. The nights are longer and the days are short. That's basically what winter is. It's the solstice, when the period of time during the year in the northern hemisphere when the nights are longer and the days are shorter, which obviously creates a colder temperature, right?
That day, the 21st, every day after that, it's another 2 minutes, something longer.
That's right. The daylight gets more and more daylight right on until March the 21st. So another way to think about it is it's when things shut down. It's when plant life in particular shuts down. So many hours of darkness, not a lot of days of light, which plants need, and it's cooler temperatures. So everything's shut down. So conversely, what is spring? It's when everything wakes up. A lot of our religions are based around those dates. You know, it's when life comes, when things come to life, right? And that's what we think of as spring. What it really is, it's the period between winter and summer, right? And as days continue to get higher and higher, daylight gets higher and higher. So now, again, these are just climate data from right here in Smithfield. And here again, we're at our 50-degree mark right here, going across. Right here, one day, we're below 50, we're at 50 degrees. One couple of days right in here, we're below 50 degrees. Other than that, all the way across here, this line, this maximum temperature is above 50 degrees. So every day except for 2 or 3 days during December, your bees can get out the forage, right? So this is not winter in Vermont. This is winter in North Carolina, right? And again, a lot of these are way up here in the 70-degree range. These bees are definitely flying. Now this does not take into account precipitation. So obviously if it's raining during those days, they may not be flying. And wind, of course, you know, it could be windy and they may not be flying because of the wind. Here again, January, 50-degree mark, right across here. Here's a day or so right there, right on across. Here's a trough right in here. Middle of January till about January 22nd. Here's a trough where it's below 50 degrees and the bees couldn't probably fly. But look right here, all of a sudden, as soon as we come out of that, we're up at 70 degrees again. Your bees are absolutely flying during those dates. And then just the last one, because this, I didn't do March because I don't care what you think, anybody thinks, March cannot be considered winter in North Carolina. It's absolutely not winter time. One day right in there below 50. All the rest of these days, your bees are flying. So there's some good and some bad with that. So when your bees are flying and there's nothing for them to go out and bring back in, so they're going to look, but there's probably very little blooming during a lot of these periods of time. So they're burning a lot of energy, so they're eating up your stores and your honey, and in your hives, your honey in your hives, right? And so really, winter prep in North Carolina, Jack's my favorite, man. But winter prep in North Carolina is not about surviving the harshness of the winter. It's really about getting ready, the colony ready to take advantage of these early pollen and nectar flows that we're going to talk about in just a second for productive spring buildup. And ultimately, it's about getting ready to catch swarms, right? That's what's going to happen. So, anybody know what that is? It's a camellia flower. This is not a picture of the one at the Imagination Station in downtown Wilson, but we've got one we've got one right outside of our observation hive. I mean, right where the tube comes out, there's a camellia tree right there in front of it. And most years, or the last several years anyway, it is blooming the last week of December, first week of January, almost consistently. May, you got them in your yard, maybe? Yep. So a lot of times we think about, and I always think about being a forester, what I have on my mind is the trees in the woods and the weeds and stuff in the fields that are really contributing to our bees' nutrition and health. But during the wintertime is the one time of the year when actually yard trees are probably, yard bushes and shrubs are really a big part of what they're out there collecting. And it kind of depends on where you live at. So if you live in a nice rude neighborhood like May lives in and have all these pretty little beehives that are sitting on this, you still got them on a little stand. Oh, it's beautiful back there. You might have like many camellias, right? That's and especially in some of the older neighborhoods. A lot of the old downtown city neighborhoods have a lot of camellia bushes in them. So that's one flower that they probably collected. Anybody know what that is? Dandelion. So where I live, in the redneck woods, this is what we have. This is where the guys that don't mow their yard, like me, you ride by there and go, oh God, it looks terrible. Well, it ain't. Huh? So I was going to ask if you'd ever seen them. I have seen them like that on. I did not take that picture, but have you seen them like that on dandelions?
Never.
I absolutely have. I've seen them where you catch them the right time of the day during the winter when there's nothing else out there, and you find a yard usually that is covered with dandelions. You will find the bees covered on them, absolutely covered on them. My next door neighbor actually has a really, really nice manicured yard, but he also has a pasture next to it that's loaded with dandelions. And I've seen my bees on them early January, sometimes even December. I did notice today there was some blooming around my house now in November. What are these bees, as a side note, what are these bees? So what are they after? What are they collecting? They're collecting nectar, because if you look at all of their cubiculus, and you don't see any pollen on any of them, at least I can't make out any pollen on any of them. And they've got their faces dove down into the flowers, so they're definitely almost certainly after. And one thing I never have seen is any bees on any flower that heavy for pollen. They just don't get attracted that way to pollen. So what flower is that? It's also a dandelion. Yep. So what is she collecting? She's collecting pollen. There it is on her cubiculum right there. And if you notice, she's not dove down in it. And that's one of the ways you can tell the difference between whether a bee is collecting nectar or pollen. The obvious easy way is look on her pollen basket. She's got pollen on her pollen basket. She's collecting pollen. But they also tend to kind of hover over top of the flower. They don't get down into the flower. They kind of hover over the top of it. And why is that? For those of you going for your journeyman, why are they up here on the top? Yeah, but what's up here on the top of the flower? The antlers. Yep, the antlers are on the top. So they actually kind of fly and hover over the top of it. They get the pollen all over their body because of the static electricity, and then they take their, actually, if you go back, this is a really cool picture. I didn't spend much time on it, but she's got her proboscis dampening the pollen that she has pulled off of her body. Probably she's missed right here. You missed a spot right here on her nose. But she's flying back to the nest, maybe, or still around the flower possibly, but she's dampening that pollen so she can stick it back, pass it back through and stick it on her curbicula and it'll stick to it. By the way, what are they collecting? We didn't say that. Looks like nectar to me. I kind of wanted to make that a pollen basket, yeah, I think that's just one of these. It's some damper, I think is what it is. So, and again, they're dove down in. See how their heads are sticking down in there. So they're most likely collecting nectar. This one's collecting pollen, we already said, and that burnt orange right there. If you get that color in your mind, that burnt orange is dandelion, and you'll probably see that as one of the very, very earliest pollens that you see coming in. So what is this one? Henbit. And I didn't pull a picture of it, but henbit is red pollen. So some of the very earliest things you'll see is that burnt orange from dandelion and red from henbit. And this stuff is everywhere. Again, it's in the bad yard keepers, you know, the rednecks down the road. Not yours, I'm sure, but the rednecks down the road that don't mow the yard.
Farm fields.
And farm fields, it'd be everywhere in farm fields. There is another plant, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to tell what it is, but there's another plant that looks very similar to henbit. Red, purple dead nettle. Yep, purple dead nettle looks very similar to henbit. I don't think it has as much nectar in it, but I've seen them on it before. But henbit is highly attracted to them. And again, this is blooming early January, all through February.
Are they after the nectar and the pollen on the
Henbit, both, and actually, good question, Terry. Thank you. I got sidetracked. This would be, I would be certain, is collecting nectar. You can't see I don't see a bloom under there, but the way henbit does, it blooms around the stem.
The blooms will kind of drop a little bit.
Yes, that's right. So I think, and her is pretty sure I can see her proboscis right in there. And I don't know if they have extra floral, do they? I'm not sure, but that's possible. I'm not sure about that. But the other hint, obvious hint, is there's her cubicula and there's nothing on it. And it would be very, very obvious because it's very, very red.
And if your bees are depending on this, when the farmers start cutting their fields, your nectar flow is just going to drop off like that.
Sure will.
So you be aware of that.
I'm gonna talk about some of that. I might have. I forget a lot of things.
We had that problem at my location this year.
Right, they mow it early. Yep.
Nectaries are found on the base of the flower on the henbit. It can also be found on the leaves or petiole.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. Did y'all hear that? So they do have extra floral nectaries on the henbit. And then last one I'm going to show, I think it's the last one. Everybody know what that one is? Maple, red maple. That's the big one. All of those other ones are contributors. But when the red maple start, and the reason it's big is because they are everywhere. Red maple is the most abundant tree in North America. It's certainly the most abundant tree anywhere around here. Is it the most commercially valuable? Not by a long shot. But there is a lot of maple, small, big. You know, if anybody ever asks me, what trees would you plant? And they say red maple. Not so much. They're everywhere anyway. You know, they're everywhere. So, and they're so easy to spot. You know, you can ride down the road and you see that red early in the season. That's the red maples blooming. And your bees are going to explode. They get both. So again, you're doing the same exercise. This one obviously is after nectar. And this one has been on pollen. So that puke kind of looks like when you're in college and you threw up in the toilet. If you ever did that. it's that same, pretty much that same color, I think. So it's gray, green, black is what I call it. But when you see that start coming in, your bees are fixing to explode. That is one of the biggest drivers for, so fresh incoming pollen is the biggest driver for brood production. And so you can feed them all you want to, but until they have fresh, you can feed them sugar water all you want to, but until they have fresh incoming pollen, they're not going to brood up. But as soon as that happens, when you see these bees coming in, and they'll be coming in by the dozens and dozens and dozens, all at the same time, when they're coming in with that color pollen on them, you better be ready. And so so I track that. Again, I'm a forester. I work in the woods. I cut trees for a living. So I see them every day. As I become a beekeeper and become more aware of what I'm looking at, for a long time I didn't really care. I was cutting trees. But, you know, as I become more aware of it, I see these blooms really, really early. So I've been, and actually I'm a hunter too, and one of my fondest memories of maple and honeybees was on the very last day of deer season about 3 years ago or so. I was standing in the woods, quiet, my dogs were running, I was listening to them run, and as they got farther and farther away, I could hear this humming, a really loud humming. And I was like, what in the world is that? And then I noticed I was standing next to a maple tree about that big that didn't have any commercial value. It was just a short tree, big but short tree that just had limbs everywhere. It took up about a quarter of an acre of the forest, and it was absolutely loaded with blooms. And that would have been January 1st, the last day of deer season. So January 1st, that tree, and as I left there, I noticed, started looking, and there was a lot of trees blooming, but none of them were blooming to that extent. So it just happened to have the right spot in the forest. It was a master of its area because the crown took over everything, and it was getting all the sunlight it needed and probably all the warmth it needed, and it was feeding thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of honeybees all at one time. And that really woke me up to how quick and how early this all can happen. And in fact, I went right back to my house and looked, and sure enough, they were pouring the pollen in, maple pollen in. So that's January 1st. And I'm not sure why I threw that in there, other than it's just a great saying. And then, some people don't like Cayman. He's pretty proud of himself, but he does have, this is a great saying. Great queens, low mites, good nutrition. I guess what I was trying to get across, I was doing this late at night one night. I'm not sure. I looked at it this morning, I was like, where was my thought on that? But anyhow, I really think what I was trying to convey was, if you already had all of that, if you've got great queens, and great queens to me are fresh queens. That's not 2-year-old queens. That's going to Al and buying a new queen, or re-queening yourself, whatever you need to do to have a 1-year-old queen in your hives all the time. That's a great queen. They can have other good traits, but fresh and young is really, really hard to beat. Low mite speaks for itself. Good nutrition also kind of speaks for itself. And what I'm saying is, if you had that, so there's 2 times you should see this. You should see this in September and October. We just talked about early October. We were just talking about how full our brood nests were just a few weeks ago. Now, at least at my house in northern Nash County, my brood is going away. I have very, very few eggs, almost none, very, very little young larvae, a little bit of older larvae still have a lot of cat brood, but with no eggs and no young larvae, it's pretty easy to figure out pretty soon they're not going to be any cat brood, right? That's kind of the way that works. And so within the next few weeks, you should see a broodless period. But if your bees are ready for it, ready for that January 1st maple flow and those henbit and dandelions and camellias that are blooming even earlier than that, by the 3rd week of January, you should see this again. And when you see this in your hive, you're fixing to have a lot of bees. So how many bees are on a frame? How many brood cells are on a frame? Per side. Per side. 3,500 per side. 7,000. You know, so if you got 3 frames that look like this, well, this has got a little cap of honey, so it might not be 7,000. Let's give it 5,000. You got 3 frames that look like that, you've almost got 2 packages of bees in your hive when they start emerging, right? So you better be ready. And so how do you get ready? You know, but okay, my bee, I put last month, Adolphus was here, you put your bees to bed for the winter, right? Okay, I've got my winter plan together, I nested them up and everything's good. Well, you better get busy getting ready for the spring is what I'm trying to tell you, because it's going to be here soon. So we already said January 1st, they very well could be heavily brooded up. Mine usually are. We saw the graphs by the mid to end of January, it was 70 degrees for a long period of time last year. So they're bringing in a lot of pollen, they're bringing in a lot of nectar, they're making a lot of brood, and within 21 days of that, 3 weeks. So by February 21st, your box is going to be slammed full of bees, and they're going to be thinking about swarming. And most of the time in my yard, and I think I've actually got something about swarming coming up, but most of the time in my yard, by mid-February, I start seeing swarm cells if I've got any swarmy type bees that year, which I try to prevent, but you can't prevent it completely. So assemble your honey supers and your frames now. That's the first thing you're going to need. Again, getting back to my yard, what I do by mid-February for the last 3 to 5 years, I've been putting my honey supers on, at least one. At least one honey super. Obviously, those of you that are beginners, you don't have drawn comb, it doesn't work as good. But I put on one honey super of drawn comb at least by mid-February every year. It's amazing how much nectar they will collect in that honey super in the month of February and March. I'm not telling you you're going to make honey. I'm telling you you need to relieve the pressure from the brood nest, because if they're full of bees down there and they got a lot of incoming nectar and they don't have anywhere to put it, that triggers it. That's going to be their trigger. They're going to say, we are filled this place up. You know, we've done our job. We need to make another colony. We're going to start swarm mode. And in my experience, it's extremely, some of you other beekeepers may be better than me, but it's extremely hard to stop swarm mode once swarm mode starts. Once they've decided they're going to swarm, turning that corner back around without doing something drastic like moving the queen out is almost impossible, in my opinion. So assemble your honey frames, your honey supers and your frames now. Kind of a side note on that, I don't like to put my foundation in them if I'm using foundation until I'm ready to put it in the hive. Al's shaking his head, that's probably a good idea, you know, because you put it in there, put it in some dry look, it's got wax on it. By the way, all I use is plastic with wax, heavy wax, and you put it in a dry place, or you can do 1 or 2 or 3 things. You put it in a dry environment, it dries all that wax out. You put it in a warm environment, it melts the wax and it's no longer there. So putting the frames together, that's the beauty of the plastic, is you can keep it together in the box and let Al keep it for you. Don't go back from him until the last minute. But
Oh, about 10 minutes before you get there, too.
Yeah, but get your frames together and then just go buy your box of foundation or however many foundation frames you need, and they'll be fresh. And when you're ready to put them in there, just, I mean, it's a 3-second thing, pop, pop, and you got the frame put together. You can stick it in your box. I'd advise making more than you think you need, but bare minimum, and I love any opinions from more experienced beekeepers, but bare minimum, I think you need 2 honey supers per colony.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. What would you?
I do 3.
3 is good, mate. 2, 3. So I mean, that's be thinking that way. Don't you probably bought your maybe you bought a double D or whatever you bought, and you might have bought a medium with it. But that was good. You made it through the year. You still got bees, and you probably won't be in this class or presentation. But now I'm telling you, you need more, and that's the way beekeeping is. You always need more, right?
Depends on how tall you are. I mean, John, 4 honey supers or 6 honey supers.
They do make ladders, mate. And I gotta use them, so I know. But yeah, so go ahead and be thinking towards that. If you're thinking you're gonna want to make honey this year, and I didn't start with that, and maybe I should have backed all the way up, saying this presentation is to preparing to make honey. That's what this is. This is not preparing to keep bees. That's another class. You can go somewhere else for that. But, I mean, in my opinion, bees are an agricultural creature, and they're there for us to produce something with. You know, that's why we have them, not because they're our friends. They are not your friends. Go ahead and make your supers and get ready. And I've already told you about how to blow them up and filling them up in February, but I didn't tell you about this part. So then, all of a sudden, the maples are done. The elms are done. Elms are another big one that flowers early. The elms and the maples are done. The farmers are cutting the hen bit down because they got to get ready to put their crops in the field. Your neighbor, your sloppy neighbor down there has now mowed the dandelions. That was so great. You know, you didn't do it all winter. Now when you need them, he mows them. And in May, in your nice manicured neighborhood, the camellias have finished. They're done. So there's nothing out there for some period of time. And I meant to get on you to give me some graphs on this, but I mean, it is so obvious. You'll see that build. If you look at the weight scales, some of these graphs on weight scales, I don't know if there's any online that you can access or not, but 5 County has theirs online if you know how to access it. That ain't my thing. Adam can probably do it, but you can see that build up. You can see the weight just going to the roof, and then come sometime in March, April, somewhere in that period. It's really warm. We already looked at that. You know, the temperatures are warm. The bees are flying, but all of a sudden there's nothing for them to find. And so all those supers, and this is what I do, those supers that I put up there, now they're just feeding off of it. You know, they can fill them up. Sometimes I get some capping. You get your capping in February, March. They put a lot up there in them, but then they never get around to capping them. Part of that's probably because they need warm enough temperatures to make wax, would be my guess. You know, so they never get to actually capping them, and the next thing you know, they've eaten it all. So it's a little disappointing, but it actually works. If you do it, it works. They feed themselves right back out. I didn't say also, don't put a queen excluder down there early like this. It's very, very unlikely if they're bringing in a lot of nectar and putting it in a super that the queen is going to go up there and start laying, I'm sorry. She's probably not going to go up there and start laying. But if for any reason the bees decided to go, the workers decided to go, and they shouldn't because they got brood below, but you just don't know, they're bees. If they decide to go above the excluder and she's left below the excluder, you know, it's going to be a cold night in January, February, right? So I wouldn't do that. I don't do that. I put my honey super on, drone comb, let them fill it up, let them suck it back down, And then mid-April or something, when the real honey flow comes, that's when I'll put the excluders on. Most of y'all use excluders?
Yeah, but I
No.
put mine on just before my honey supers. I'm gonna put my supers on, my excluder goes on first.
Yeah, because you don't want any brood or pollen up in
Yeah,
there. And I sacrifice some of that. You know, they will put pollen up in there. Definitely will put pollen up in there. Rarely will it put brood up there. And then importantly, but most importantly probably is have your swarm management plan in place. We could probably at 740. What time is it? All right. So we could talk about this for a long time. But y'all probably will have a swarm presentation sometime in February, March, April, something like that. So I won't take up a lot of time, but I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on it. So those beginners that are just getting started, beginners, 1 or 2 years experience. Once all this spring buildup starts, one of the first things you're gonna notice is heavy drone brood production, right? That's one of your first signs. If you go in your box and you see heavy drone brood production, they've already got that click. They're getting ready to try to reproduce themselves and produce a swarm. Once you have seen that, and or if you know there is heavy brood buildup, whether you see the drones or not, every 7 to 9 days, once it starts, do it every 7 to 9 days. You're going to want to look for swarm cells. So why 7 to 9 days? For the beginners. Why would you do it every 7? Why would you look for swarm cells every 7 to 9 days? You had it in the class. It's all about bee queen biology. How long do you mind bee math? How long is a bee an egg? 3 days. How long is a queen a larva? Larvae. 5.5. 5.5. That's 8.5 days. So once she lays an egg, until she's fixed, she turns into a pre-pupa, is about 8.5 days. So once she turns into a pre-pupa and begins to spin a cocoon, that's when the swarm, and they cap her, that's when the swarm begins. So at 9 days, they'll start capping. If you've waited longer than 9 days, then your swarm could be in the tree. So 10 days don't work. Every other week positively does not work. So just to finish it up, when does she emerge? 16 days. So if you don't catch it at 9 days, if Saturday was your day to check and that was 9 days, the next Saturday she's already emerged. If she's already emerged, then positively your swarm is gone and or you've got chaos going on in your hive. So most likely the swarm has emerged or has left, is what I'm trying to say. So how do you look? It's simple. It's simple. And there's no excuse for not looking for queen cells. Absolutely no excuse for it. If you say, I don't have time to look for queen cells, you, number one, don't understand how to look for queen cells. But number two, you need to get out beekeeping because you ain't got no time. It literally takes a minute, 1 minute. You know, it's gonna take you way longer to light your smoker, and that shouldn't take you but a minute once you get good at it. And if you're not good at it, you should practice every day between now and spring. You know, just when you get home, light a smoker, just every day. It takes a few minutes to do it. You get better and better at it, and you need to be good at it. It's important. Smoking is extremely important, but being good and efficient at beekeeping, that I don't have time thing comes from things like that. Well, it takes me 15 minutes to light a smoke. No, it should take you 15 minutes to light a smoke. It should take you 2 minutes at the most. If you don't know how to do it, go to the apiary days, learn how to do it, and go home and practice and get good at it. Light your smoker. Most of y'all probably doing double Ds, but it doesn't matter if you're doing a single D. I know John does single Ds. Take your hive tool like a smoker, puff a little bit in the front end of it, put your veil on. You don't really need a full bee suit because you're not going through a full inspection. Just veil, farmer's veil works fine. Take your hive tool, crack the back of the box, pull it towards you, lift it up a little bit, pull it towards you, and tip it up. And when you tip it up, there's a look under there, just like that. That's exactly what they're doing. See, this is the bottom box down here. He's pulled it towards him, tipped it up, and this is what he saw. And that one looks capped, so this dude ain't doing this 7 to 9 days. So this hive is probably already swarmed. Do that every 7 to 9 days, and you're gonna stay ahead of the swarming problem. Other than varroa mites, and maybe as much as varroa mites, queen failure, unsuccessful queen replacement is probably the biggest reason that people, especially beginners, fail or lose their colonies. They don't pay attention. They don't know when they swarm. If you got that many swarm cells, they're going to swarm, and then they're going to swarm again. They're going to swarm again. And the next thing you know, you're going to look at your box, and there's going to be a quarter or an eighth of the bees that you thought were in there or used to be in there. And then the queen's got to go out and get mated and come back. What happens to your house?
They get eaten by dragonflies.
They get eaten by dragonflies, and they don't ever come back. So you got to get ahead of the swarming. Swarming is the thing, and if they swarm, you're not going to produce any honey. Most of the time, you're not going to get any honey. So get ahead of the swarming. Learn how to tip that box and look for them. Do it on a regular schedule. Set yourself a day. Everything else in our lives has a time, right? So set yourself a day, a time that you're going to do it every 7 to 9 days. Look for those swarm cells.
So they're only gonna do it on the top box, they won't?
Not necessarily, but most likely if they're doing it, you're going to see them on the top box. So I don't look under the bottom. If I don't see any in the top, I don't look any under the bottom. Does that mean that never happens? No. But I'd say 90% of the time they're going to be in that top box. That's just where they.
See, on mine, since the singles, I look.
Right. Right. If you're using single brood management, you would tip it off at the bottom. Do you do the same thing? You pull it across the bottom a little bit and tip it up?
I'll be truthful, most of mine are nails, I just pull the frames.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's.
You got your bottom boards.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And that's, but most beekeepers in North America, we always think of ourselves as, this is a big club. North Carolina Beekeepers is the biggest in North America, but we ain't got nothing. We ain't got no hives. These commercial beekeepers got 3.5 million or so colonies in North America. And by the way, most of those go to California for pollination of the almonds. But of those 3.5 million, they're almost all in single boxes on pallets, and they all just tip them and look at the bottom box for the swarm cell.
What do you do? Just take your tool, your pipe tool, and cut them out?
So that's the part that goes into a long study of what you do once you see them. That's a whole nother presentation, but that's not the ideal. So number one, if you see them like this, they're probably everywhere. So now you are going to do a full inspection. And that, what I just told you was a few minute job turns into hours of looking at every frame and every crevice, which gives me a really good opportunity to mention frame management is way overlooked. You need to study your frames, make sure that your frames, what we want is worker brood frames. That's how you make honey, worker brood frames. You want to make sure that your frames have worker brood cells from wall to wall to wall to wall. Square, it's a rectangle, I guess. There should be worker brood cells all the way around it. It shouldn't be disordered wonky places with drone comb and stuff like that. That's not productive. That's not the way you make honey. Worker bees make honey, drones don't make honey. So be careful about, pay attention to your frames. If they got wonky stuff on, pop it out, save the wax, go buy another, plastic foundation from Al, put it back in there and try it, let them get it right. But to get to that point, the reason I got to that point was there'll be little crevices on the side. If you're not taking care of your cone, there'll be little crevices on the side of the frame or on the side of the foundation where they can make a seal at. So you gotta pull every frame, shake the beads off of it, look at every frame on each side and make sure you get every one of them if your plan is to tear them all back. So that gets pretty involved. So a better option for swarm management, in my opinion, is to remove the queen. So if you see this, you go ahead and remove the queen. So even if it's during the honey flow, the bees that are going to collect the honey have already been made. You know, they don't need the queen in there anymore. So they can go through a queen replacement procedure and still make honey. So that it's not, they don't have to be both. You don't have to have a functioning queen and be making the honey. You can have one or the other. And so what I would do, and again, be prepared, get your extra equipment, and everybody should have at least one. I've got 40 5-frame box, just like that one right there. Everybody should have one. So what I would do is I would remove the frames, especially one like this right here that's got a bunch of them. I'd break that down to 1 or 2 cells. I'd put it in that box there with a frame of food. There's almost certainly brood on this one, you know, with the bees on it. Put it in there with a frame of brood, a frame of food, 2 or 3 empty frames. If that's all you've got, a foundation. Now you've got a queen banked in that box right there while they try to make another one in the original colony. And if they're successful, you've got a free queen you can sell, make a nuke out of, make another colony out of, whatever it is you want to do with it. And you've got the original hive still working. And again, that's a really, really short version of what to do once you see those. But tearing them down is probably the most difficult way to do it. The other thing is when you tear them down, so if you go through there and you tear them all down, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to put them all back. They're going to put them right back. So on the next 7 to 9 days, when you pull them out, same procedure, go back through it again. I do think after about 3 or 4 times they get tired of it, or maybe you get past the right season for them, and that queen will stay in the box. But there's a lot of work involved in that. So much less work to just find the queen, remove her. And
So you're saying in that case right there, you find the queen in there, move her to the new box,
and it doesn't have to be a big.
Get rid of most of the queen cells.
Yeah, I'd still try to cut down. I wouldn't, if I was going to do that, I wouldn't go through and look at every frame and every crevice and all that. But like these really obvious ones right here, I just mash them down and try to leave me 1 or 2 of them. And there's probably a few more in there. You know, they're still in nature, they have to do that some of them anyway, right? So somebody's got to win that battle. And or they might have to have your box. Another reason to have that nuke box ready is to catch those swarms, right? Especially after swarms. Sometimes a little 5-frame box is not big enough to catch a really huge monster swarm from a really big hive, but it'll catch a lot. It's big enough for a lot. It's big enough for a lot. Yes.
During the swarm season, you have a whole bunch of swarm cells on the bottom of frames like this. I remember being taught that if you have queen cells in the middle of the frame, it's either an emergency or a procedure cell. Okay. And if it's on the bottom, it is a swarm cell. But during swarm cells, I think you can have swarm cells anywhere on the frame. It doesn't matter.
I agree. Thank you. And yes, I agree 100%. You can have them anywhere, but they tend to put them in cracks and crevices. You know, there's no absolutes in anything, but I see more supersedure cells made kind of in the middle of a frame. You know, just kind of right in dead center. But that's not necessarily a golden
Because you
rule.
may not
or
want
anything.
to tear those down for some reason.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to tear supersedure cells down. And so it's really important to learn the difference. And it's pretty easy to tell the difference. The number one thing is swarm cells are abundant. Swarm cells come along with lots of drone production. They're during a time of abundance. So there's a lot of fresh incoming pollen in particular, but there's probably a lot of fresh incoming nectar too. And so all of those factors, and especially the abundance of cells, makes you think, at least, it's a really good indicator that those are swarm cells. Supersedure cells and the population is huge, right? Usually a huge population. Lots of really good brood patterns, those kind of things. Supersedure cells typically come with spotty brood patterns, low abundance of food. Things are going wrong, and that's why they're trying to replace the queen. So, yeah, thank you. That's a good point. Buy about 3 or 4 of those from Lamb. I don't know what you got in price. I've seen some of them, some with your own, $50 or so, somewhere in that kind of ballpark, 50, 60, maybe somewhere in that kind of ballpark. That is a really, really cheap piece of equipment to have for all of the things that you can do with it. So go ahead and get one of those, or a dozen, or 40. And of course, have a rural management plan in place. And again, this is one of those we can just talk on and on and on about, but we getting some better tools now. They've approved oxalic acid for use with honey superzone. It's not very effective with brood in the box like it will be in the spring, but I promise you it's better than nothing. That's positively for sure. So you can incorporate that into your rural management. Spring is typically a fantastic time of the year to do formant treatments because formant is so weather dependent. I think the directions say 85. I think in North Carolina with our humid weather, I think it's more like 75. If I was going to use a double pad, I'd use it somewhere in the 75 and below range. And I think there's a low end. I'm not sure what that is, 50, 60 or something like that. There is a low temperature, but there's some opportunities there to use formant. Apivar is pretty tricky because it can't be used with honey superzone. Formant can be, oxalic can be. Apivar cannot be used with the honey superzone, but it is, and it's a long period of treatment, but it is effective against mites in the spring. There's no temperature restrictions for it. The new treatment for oxan, I think is going to be kind of a game changer for us. I hadn't been through a spring, so I can't tell you how it's going to work. I can tell you what the manufacturers say and what some of the test people say, and they say it's going to be a really helpful tool for us in the spring of the year. We were talking about it earlier. We think it's working in the fall from the numbers that John's putting down.
Greg, the forming is 50 degrees. The minimum daytime temperature needs to be 50 degrees.
And it's really important that they can fly. That's it. So don't put, and it does say that in the direction, don't put forming on when you see 3 days of rain coming because it's going to be 75 degrees. They need to be able to get out of that hive. Forming is rough. It's rough. And if you use it, don't freak out. You're going to see dead bees. It says clearly on the package it killed 1,500 to 2,000 bees. That's on the label. So if they say that, probably could be more, right? They're trying not to make it sound too bad, right? So, it works. I have supersedure issues with it.
The one good thing, it permeates the cells.
That's exactly right. That's where it beats thank you, Howard. That's where it beats oxalic acid hands down. So oxalic acid is only killing the mites that are out on the bees, not under the sails. And I think they say 80% of the mites are underneath the sails, you know, so underneath the sail cappings. So you're not really doing, you're getting 20% of them, which, as I said earlier, is better than nothing, but it's not great. Formic can get under those cappings, and I mean,
That's why APR takes so long.
yeah, and APR takes a long time because they have to emerge and actually walk over the APR strip. So Formic is well suited for the spring. One downside that you may find is it may cause supersedure of your queen. That's not the end of the world. I mean, I just said a little while ago, fresh queens are the best thing in the world. So if you make a fresh queen because you put a Formic treatment on it, good for you. You know, you just made you a nice fresh queen. And I think by then you'll have queens at your shop too.
And new queens is not likely to swarm. Not as likely.
Absolutely. That's the number one reason. Again, going back to, you know, preparing for next spring. Really preparing for next spring starts in August. You know, it really does. You got to get your mite levels low. We just looked at some data that says if you wait too late, it's hard to get them back down. You got to get the mite levels low in August. You need to have fresh queens already in place by August. And if you do that, especially the fresh queens, that swarm management is almost going to go away. It doesn't go away, but if it doesn't go away, you probably have genetics that are tending towards swarminess. So if you put a fresh queen in there in August and she wants to swarm in March, you probably need to think twice about breeding from that queen, because there's probably some bad genetics in there somewhere. And so when you see all those swarms, if you know that's a fresh queen in your hive from August, and if you see a box that's loaded with swarm cells in there, I don't know if I'd take those swarm cells and try to make a queen like I just told you. That's not probably a good thing. I'd probably think about tearing them all down and going out and buying me another queen, or local producer of queens, or whatever. You know, so. Any questions about the varroa management in the spring? That's a big one right there. It's difficult because you're trying to make honey, but you can't let them get out of control. You know, that's when they do get out of control a lot of times, early spring.
Just remember, we have 2 vaporizers that are available for checkout.
There you go.
And you can start treating around the first week of November.
Yep.
So that's when the brood gets towards the middle.
Yep.
So,
and again, what you're doing is you're preparing for spring. You know, you're not necessarily trying, if you're killing the brood, if you're killing the mites in the first week of November, you're not really helping them over winter. All the bees that are going to carry them through the winter have already been born. You know, they're not still making it. So my colonies this week, when I went through them, I think I already said this, very, very few eggs, well, almost no eggs, very few younger larvae, a few older larvae, and still a lot of cat brood. So those bees that emerge, they're the ones that's going to carry it through winter. Do your math. You know, they're gonna emerge sometime about the first or second week of November. They're gonna live for 2 to 3 months. There's, you know, when she starts laying again, which is usually at my house, I always hear it at the equinox. I don't know how the queen's supposed to know. Well, it's the equinox. I better start laying again. I don't know about that, but I think maybe the middle of December might start laying again. I don't check them a lot that time of the year, so I can't tell you positively, but somewhere in that kind. It might be they wait till the 21st. It might be, you know, 21st we're on. But anyway, those bees aren't going to emerge for another 21 days and aren't going to forage for 21 more days after that. So those aren't the bees. So it's going to be spring when those bees emerge. So you're not, if you're treating now, or in a few weeks, if you're treating the first or second week of November, you're not treating to help that colony survive the winter. You're treating to help that colony build up big and make you some honey in the spring. That's what you're doing. So now's the time to prep. And I guess the whole talk is all about timelines. And John asked me to make sure that I included that, and I'm thankful for that, because that's what it's all about. These bees are on a schedule. You know, you might not be on their schedule, but if you don't get on their schedule, you're not going to be a very good bee. You've got to understand their schedule, understand when things absolutely need to be done. You know, there's time periods, there's things, the 7 to 9 days, the first, second, third week of November, treating with oxalic acid. You've got the January 1st maple build up. You've got to understand those time periods, and you've got to be timely and make sure that you are making the right maneuvers for those bees. Always plan ahead. Beekeeping is not about looking back. I know a lot of people that keep a lot of detailed notes. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They keep a lot of detailed notes. Most of those people never look back at those notes. They never look back at it. I don't make any notes except I put white duct tape on the top of my boxes, a wide piece of white duct tape. I keep a black Sharpie right here in this pocket all the time. And when I go through a hive, I might put a date that I went, so like in the spring, and I don't even do it much in the spring because I know it's 7 to 9 days. I work a full-time job. I know it's going to be on Sunday because I also rabbit hunt. So, up until the end of February, I'm not going in any hives on Saturday. So it's going to be on Sunday. Every Sunday, I'm going to go through those hives and tip and look for swarm cells. And so I don't even put those notes down there. But what I will put notes on are, again, things that are forward looking. Put Apivar in June the 1st. You know, that way I can say, okay, put it in June 1st. 56 days, it's time to take it out, right? So I'm not really thinking about what was in the past. I'm not making notes about, this good brood pattern, bad brood pattern. She's a pretty queen. She's a big queen, whatever. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is what's ahead of you, what's going on in the future. And you need to learn to think. I try to think 2 time frames, John. All of y'all, I appreciate y'all's input too, but I try to think 2 time frames, 3 weeks ahead and 6 weeks ahead. That kind of way you're thinking, Nathan, how are you even thinking? 10 years big?
I tend to think about dates.
Yes.
In other words, I know towards the end of June, the nectar flow is going to be coming off. My bee's going to need something to eat.
Yep.
I know, I need to get mite treatments on this date, by this date, because, I know when the winter bees are coming.
Yep.
I tend to think by dates. I can tell you when the first goldenrod's going to bloom, and it's not going to produce any nectar. I just see the first blooms into July.
Yep.
And it comes on in September, and it runs till about the 1st or 5th of November.
Most of mine are dead by now.
Yeah.
So last
It's not good this year. The fall flow is not great this year.
it was not good around mine. I don't really even have one, but mine will be the same. How do you think? As you're thinking ahead, is that kind of the same thing? Dates, maybe?
4 days.
Yeah. Maybe are you looking at when something's going to happen, or how does your mindset work?
I do a little bit of watching also, listening to the weather.
Yeah.
And see,
Yeah.
basically, food supplies can change pretty quickly, because if
Yep.
they get a false sense of early spring and they start consuming, laying more eggs, and
Yep.
then they're starting consuming all their food sources early, and then you have a cold snap. So the zigzagging up and down the temperature can be really bad on them, because they don't know whether they're supposed to be laying or eating. This is kind of.
That's a good point. And that's exactly what I was trying to convey in something like this with that big spike there in the end of January. I mean, it's going to get cold again. you're January, I mean, but not winter cold, it's just gonna get North Carolina winter
And
cold.
if they laid eggs, they're ready to, they're clustering over them to stay warm, meanwhile, they're not able to get to the food, or if they're able to get to the food, you're gonna consume it fast enough to replace it with the new mouths that are emerging. So that's where they can get into starvation.
You sound like you're trying to say it's complicated.
That's not. That's not pay attention.
I like to watch the weather. So, you know, some newer beekeepers may not think about that. They may not think. So we just had that rainy period for 2 or 3 weeks. The bees couldn't fly. There might have been some goldenrod blooming, but they couldn't go get any. Right? It's raining the whole time.
Or windy.
Or windy. Wind is a big deal. It really is. And especially in the spring, and especially, I'm very, very reliant on poplar flow.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have a nice calm 60-degree day, they can't go. I mean, them trees are way up there where them pollen blooms are, and they're open. If you have never seen a poplar bloom, it's open like that, and a big wind can just literally blow the nectar right out.
Or the rain washes the nectar.
And the rain can wash the nectar out. Yes, I'm good. I was looking at your clock. Absolutely. Yep, I am doing, unless anybody's got any questions. I just went back to that because it's such a beautiful picture. So what a nice tree. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Very important. So,
Alice in Wonderland.
I love it. My favorite.
next on our agenda is for discussion of the aftermath of Hurricane Helene and how our bee club can help. You want to go into that?
Well, I think what Al and I had talked about is we were gonna try to help out Hannah County and try to get them some nukes next spring. Al knows someone up there that's associated with their club, and we're figuring if we could, you know, if everybody could do one nuke, that would make a lot of difference. And, you know, we'd want the nukes about, early May to mid-May, because go ahead, Meg.
Can the club provide or pay for, portable cardboard nuke boxes?
I'd rather use the pro nukes. The cardboard just are so flimsy.
Well, I mean, it's, what's that other one? It's like a plastic.
It's plastic.
Well, that's
It's
what I mean, like a portable instead of like.
We probably can.
And we are kind of early in the process about the bee part. So, let's see. I think in the email we got, there were links to help them. We're more concerned with the people
Right.
who are hurt up there versus their bees right now, because they need a place to live. Some of them don't have roads to get out of their house, even if their house was still left. So just review your email that you got. It's got some links that are, I think a lot of people are donating toward some out of those.
Samaritans first.
Samaritans first.
But we forwarded Rick Core's email, because I know some people aren't members of the state, but he listed all the charitable organizations up there. There's a very comprehensive list. Also, we were talking about possibly donating from the club $1,000 to Samaritans First to help in Western North Carolina.
That's a nice thing to do, yeah. But
So-
also, if you're donating funds, they have to have a place to put them. If they're not settled yet, these homes are not built communities, there's no roads, there's no, where are we gonna put them?
Yeah, and we got an email yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before, there's actually five counties. So we're teamed up with Wake and some others that are
Yes.
helping Ash. So it's not just our club gonna help them with their bees, it's gonna be other counties as well. And so what they did is took all the affected counties and tried to team them up with like between 4 and 6 other counties that are east of that.
So, but we'll know more as time progresses, but we just kind of wanted to help.
As they start to rebuild, they gotta get roads in first.
Right.
But what we want you all to think about is, can I do a nuke this spring that could be donated to Western North Carolina? And, you know, that's the process we want you to start thinking about.
Right.
And then we also would like to do the donations to Americans First. And we're gonna need approval of the membership to do that. So I would like to make a proposal that we donate $1,000 to Americans First for helping in Western North Carolina.
How much is in the, do we have money for it?
We
On
have,
there, it's $9,600.
it'll be a little bit less than that because we had the cookout and some other expenses.
So we've got at least 9,000 in there.
Yeah. Does anybody want to second that motion? Okay. Everybody for the donation?
Yes.
Anybody opposed? Okay. We'll make that happen. And then also, we may need to help build equipment too. If that,
That'll give a
you know.
a head start.
So just think about that. That would be January, February.
But we're trying not to duplicate work with other clubs that are also offering. So,
And Chris isn't here tonight. Chris is president of Wake County, and he's usually here, so.
I think tonight he's working.
State fair, yeah.
Okay, discussion of fall elections next on the list. And we have every position, we have at least one person who won't be here.
So why don't you go through?
Yes, I'm gonna go through them, and in the next month's email, you'll have a list of, so before you come to the November meeting, you know who's on there. For president, Rick Ivy. Vice President, Daniel Blackburn. The secretary and treasurer were combining. Kent Porter is on that. And new directors, Tammy Smith. And for program director, Jim Dunster.
Well, they won't vote on that.
Oh, that's right.
Board members that are here
Program.
tonight, please stay so we can make that happen.
And so Donna and Nathan are our other two directors. So that would round out the crew, but we only vote for one director every year. And I can't fail to mention that Kent and Rick are still going to be our apiary managers. And also, none of our technical stuff can operate without our technical reaches out. He keeps the swarm list going, he keeps membership in line, online pay. Keeps the
He gives a
website
certain
up.
president out of trouble.
Yeah, there's so much he does. It's unbelievable. So, next on our list is our farm report from Seth.
So there's not a whole lot to report right now. Most everything that wasn't wiped out by one of the many rain events that we had towards the end of the growing season has already pretty much wrapped up. I know that strawberries have started to be planted and should hopefully be finished being planted over the next probably 2 weeks or so. They're starting to get into harvesting most of the row crops. And I know that hopefully we'll be finishing up with sweet potatoes over the next 3 or 4 weeks. They're running a little behind this year due to both the droughts and then the floods. So that's really all I've got to report. If you haven't and are interested in buying some fruit and nut trees, our fruit and nut tree sale is going on currently. If you need an order form, just let me know after the meeting and I can get you one. Yes. Okay.
How is the sweet potato crop this year?
It's a crop.
Yeah, man.
Yes and no.
Depends on the location.
So we had some areas a lot of areas that are really misshapen due to the drought conditions that caused them to form up poorly. And then we had some other other locations like down towards Newton Grove that a lot of them are sour because they've gotten about 60 inches of rain since June 31st. So a whole year's worth of rain in 2 months. So it's all over the place. All right, does anybody else want a fruit and nut tree order form? 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's it. Oh, you're gonna get off easy tonight. You don't have to pick up those chairs.
Okay. So next on our agenda is the treasurer report. Let me go ahead and read it.
Yeah,
Rick's our treasurer this year. So our bank balance is $9,625.79. And like John said, some checks will be cleared this month, so. Okay, this weekend, there's fall outreach at Bentonville Battlefield. Battlegrounds. You have all those positions filled, or you need more volunteers?
Anybody wanna volunteer, we'll take more people. If you just see me, I'd appreciate it. It's gonna be fairly simple, we're not selling any honey because they sell our honey in the direct shop. So it's really easy down, we just talk to people, have some bees down there, in the observation room. So, but it's a lot of fun, we see a lot of different people and get a lot of good questions.
And it gives you a chance to answer big questions to people that know a lot less than we do. Like, usually they don't know nothing about these. And to speak to that point, when he showed the maple, I recognized that. If you had asked me any time before, the first time I ever had these, I grew up on a 63-acre farm full of maples. I would have told you maple trees don't bloom, because I never saw them. I knew the little hilltop things. So you know a lot more than just your typical person. It's right.
And it counts as a service credit for anybody working on their master beekeeper program.
That's right. So if you're interested in becoming journeyman or even above, this counts. It's one of your service credits. Okay, November. Our meeting's still gonna be on the 18th. We did get bumped this year because of the way the calendar fell. Was they always had this room for the Farm City banquet on Monday night before Thanksgiving. Luckily, Thanksgiving's the next week. So regular meeting, the third weekend, and it's going to be Jennifer Keller. It's going to talk to us about what's happening at NC State B-Lab. And I attended our club at the groundbreaking, which I found out Jennifer actually got kind of a lateral move. She's going back into offices now. So I told her she could be bored because the office is a lot more boring than being in the bees. But I did meet her replacement. I think it Kim. And she lives down in Goldsboro. So we might be able to get her next year. Board ideas for utilizing the funds to support our growth, which this makes what, third month?
It's probably 6 months.
This one. Gradually, it's getting there. It's just we're really busy. Actually,
Okay,
it's being taken care of.
the suits are the last thing that I've got to work on, and I will work on them in the next 4 weeks. 4-H has finally got a rack in there, they got all their suits up, so now we have some more room where we can put some more suits in. We went and bought another rack. And then Kent is working on the first aid. We've got to go buy a refrigerator to keep that in. So other than that, we're done there. And we're not gonna buy but like a dorm refrigerator. So.
All right.
April report.
So April looks pretty good. I walked down this afternoon, still have moving bees. Looks like all the colonies are still alive. We did have a high mite count on the horizontal hive out in the master beekeeper area. The master garter area. We treated it with format. We're coming up on our 14th day here, next week.
We do 2-1.
I did 1.5, because it's a medium, and I took 9 frames of honey and 1 empty frame that we had put in there. I put it there in the freezer, so they still have plenty of storage to get them fed. And we'll be checking them in the next couple of weeks to make sure.
And we repaired that hive. When we built that, we had a space issue. We had too much clearance in the bottom. So we went in and put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood in there so they stopped building comb on the bottom. So.
Thank you. And not on our agenda, but I'd like to thank all the people who helped with our picnic. So I think it was great. And
Big hand for Donna for going and getting all, she did all of it.
And to me, we're gonna be drinking at a Christmas party.
Yeah.
it's still fizzing just a little. I did taste the cranberry. Oh my gosh. I think one's just a plain honey water yeast. One is apple cider. And my favorite one is the cranberry. We threw a bunch of Christmas flavoring, like lots of cloves, lots of cinnamon. So I'm thinking of trying to get a gallon one before Christmas. So anyway, we're planning on bringing that for sampling during our December meeting. So anyway, anybody have anything else? The holiday dinner, we're gonna do a holiday dinner like we've done in the past.
Same Monday as the meeting?
It was,
It would be the same Monday as.
yes, the third Monday of the month. Daniel's already said he can help us do the same thing we did. He's been happy with the results. So food's good. Usually ask members if you want to bring some homemade dessert. It's always good.
What's the food gonna be?
It's barbecue. I'll let Daniel tell us the list. He's saying it's
Pulled pork, chicken, hush puppies, and then we want to get 2 sides like macaroni and cheese and beef or something. I'm not sure on the side. But it's fine for sport cake.
yes. Your
Daddy
sister-
It'd be daddy barbecue out of it.
Spinach salad.
and they bring the salad. Some people,
The salads are very good. You better get 2 this time.
I got to last time and it went like that. 6 o'clock?
let's try 6.
What? I don't care. I'm here.
I think most people could probably make it by 6. Yes, it's in here. So.
And it's the 16th, so.
There'll be a lot of emails about it.
Yeah, okay.
It's only October.
Yeah, we usually send RSVPs out. That way we get a good head count. We don't want too much, we don't want too much. So that's a difficult part of catered events versus everybody bring a potluck. Once you got 3 people bring a potluck, everybody brings mashed potatoes. All right.
Hey, I'm gonna take this home, scan, send it to Adam, have him send it out to everybody.
Good article.
I just skimmed it, but yeah, I'll make that happen. That's no problem. That way everybody gets it.
All right, well, I'm gonna adjourn. Thanks everybody for coming.
Board members. Great thing.
John,
Yes, Friday, you gonna be some there?